Right then, let's go to the debate desk now with Scarlett Maguire and Reem Ibrahim. Great to have you in the studio.
Hello, good morning.
Good morning. Scarlett is a former Labour advisor and Reem Ibrahim is the comms officer at the Institute of Economic Affairs. Let's start with Andrew Gwynne. Scarlett.
I think it's unbelievable, actually. I think you never, ever... What he said was awful, but also he's moronic to put anything down in writing. I just couldn't
You have a WhatsApp group with a lot of people, and clearly at least one of them has given this to journalists for whatever reason. But I mean, some of the stuff he said about a resident who wrote, "As you've been re-elected, I thought it would be an appropriate time to contact you in regard to the bin collections," to which he sort of proposed the following response: "Dear resident, F your bins. I'm re-elected and without your vote, screw you. PS, hopefully you'll have crooked it by the all-outs," which is another word for local council elections. I mean, that is not something that you can stand over, Reem.
It isn't, and I will say it does look bad, I think, on a surface level, but ultimately I think that he's basically been sacked for having a bit of a sense of humour. I think a lot of the jokes... Sense of humour? Yeah, I think a lot of the jokes are quite funny.
You think it's a sense of humour to talk about someone called Marshall Rosenberg and to say, no, he sounds too militaristic and too Jewish. Is he in Mossad? I think that's funny.
I know. I think what's obviously true is that he saw those as jokes, right? That's obviously true. And I think that we tend to be particularly harsh about people. Now, I'm the last person to defend any politician. I think that politicians tend to have a much lower standard than we should have in British politics in the first instance. That being said, I think we need to really look at the detail of what has actually been said and really have these conversations about whether or not we would like all of our WhatsApp messages leaked. You know, people make jokes in light-hearted manners, and clearly this is what Andrew Gwynne was doing. It was intended to be a joke. It was intended to be light-hearted. I think we need to be very honest about that and really think about, look at ourselves. Can we all adhere to the same standards that we seem to put on other
But there's a higher standard for members of Parliament, is there not, Scarlett Maguire?
Yes. I mean, there is no question that if you are a member of Parliament, if you're somebody in a position that you have to think about what you say and that everything that you write down is public. And it's just like I say to people, they go, "Oh, I'm worried about being in the media," and I go, "Look, at a dinner party, you're in public. Anything that you say can be used, and anybody who is crazy enough to think that a WhatsApp group is private." I've been shown messages on private WhatsApp groups by friends of mine who said, "Oh, look at what she said, look at what they said." It is complete. When are we going to grow up and understand that these things are? That's why I say he's moronic. He might have had a sense of humour. Thank God, the number of people that I have said should be shot.
Yeah, exactly.
I've said it. I do not put it on WhatsApp. Yeah. I don't do emails.
But why is that any? So you're saying that the jokes are perfectly fine, they're perfectly normal to make, but you just wouldn't put it in writing because that means it.
No, I don't think Scarlett is saying that actually.
No, I'm saying in very private, one-to-ones, when I'm cross with people and they can be public figures, I might be rude about them. But actually,
so you see, this is the point, right? So nobody's actually upset about the jokes themselves. We're upset
about.
I actually think saying.
But you think that they're fine to say one-on-one?
No.
Well, that's what you just said.
Let's Scarlett speak.
I actually think that getting to the stage of saying that a pensioner and all she wanted was her bins emptied, right, I hope you croak before, is deeply offensive, actually. And it's somebody he didn't know. I mean, at least, when I'm cross, they're very famous people that I think should be gone. But actually, no, but I mean, so he shouldn't have said it.
Member of Parliament that hasn't complained about a constituent or hasn't made an offhand joke about God that she's at it again.
But this isn't just the point. The point is, this isn't just offhand. This is talking about hopefully you'll have croaked by the elections. This is talking about someone being called too Jewish. I mean, this isn't funny.
And Diane Abbott's only doing things because it's Black History.
Exactly. That's another point that he made. Yeah.
Actually, I don't think he's funny, and
you don't have to think he's funny. But the point is, in the context of that WhatsApp group, clearly he thought that it was okay in that WhatsApp group because clearly other people were also having those conversations. And it's a private WhatsApp group. He trusted those people.
Nothing.
Yes,
and he shouldn't have.
The lesson from this is don't ever take anything as being private because it can always go into the public domain. But the context is, in this particular situation, he thought that he was talking to people that were there to protect him, there to defend him. They were other members of the Labour Party. And so clearly he thought that he was just talking to friends. Now, the lesson here is it's in writing. It can go public, but just putting it into context for what he would have been thinking at the time. I mean, this is such a minor offence in my view. So many ministers have been caught doing absolutely horrendous things. We all remember Matt Hancock and you know, all of the different scandals that we've seen over the last few years.
Okay.
This to me is so minor.
Final word from Scarlett.
I think Keir Starmer did absolutely the right thing of immediately sacking him. There was just no question about it.
Okay.
I mean, he showed himself unfit to be a minister on every level, including being a moron.
OK, what do you think about this? 0344 499 1000. We'll talk in a second to Reem and Scarlett about the proposed Reform UK and Conservative Pact. We'll also ask them, should British politicians be more like Donald Trump? Thanks to Joanna in Salisbury, who says, hi Cardi P, the Conservatives are spooked and so are the Labour Party. Now the trashing of reform starts from both parties. We cannot go another 4 years of Labour because they're either signing us up for things or giving away and we can never get it back. As Nadine described Keir Starmer as a dark triad. I don't remember that, but yes, I think she's referring to Nadine Dorries there. Lots of things said about all sorts of politicians that aren't particularly nice, and lots of things said by politicians that aren't particularly nice, including Andrew Gwynne. Lots of reaction to what Reem said. Oh, Reem, you've gone down in my estimation. These comments are not obviously jokes. They are disrespectful, disgraceful and utterly contemptible. I will never think of you in the same light again, says Nick in Kent. Penny in Essex says, good morning, Peter. What is wrong with Reem? For heaven's sake, that was no joke. He should have known better. Penny, thank you for the get well card, by the way. I really appreciate that. I'm feeling much better now, as you know. Zoe in Lancashire says, morning, Peter. What this Andrew bloke said just sums up what Labour are thinking about us British people. It is outrageous. Excuse me. And Dorothy in East Kilbride says, I respect Reem's opinion on many matters, but defending the disgusting Labour MP's comments is way off the mark. That's Dorothy in East Kilbride. What would you say to some of those, Reem?
Well, I appreciate some of the criticisms and I appreciate all of the viewers of talkTV. I do think that the fundamental point here is that there seems to be a bit of hypocrisy on the right. A lot of conversations about cancel culture and being pro-freedom of expression, being pro-free speech, and then as soon as somebody makes a mistake or indeed makes a couple of jokes on a WhatsApp group, whatever you think.
They're more than jokes, though. They're more than jokes.
Well,
they're deeply offensive to many people.
Many people do find that offensive, but I think that a lot of people on the right tend to have these conversations about how we shouldn't be offended, you know, you shouldn't be a snowflake about these things. And
nobody has the right not to be offended.
Well, indeed. And as soon as a Labour politician, or any politician indeed, makes a couple of remarks on a WhatsApp group, all of the so-called free speech activists on the right are completely piling in on him.
I want to talk now about Reform UK and whether there will be a pact with the Conservatives. Scarlett, should there be?
I don't see how it can happen. I mean, there is a real difference between Reform and the Conservatives. And I think it's Nadine Dorries, actually, who said there'll be a total split in the Conservatives. Because, I mean, if they're doing it, they're only doing it. I mean, I've read all the MPs saying it, and it's quite low level people saying it, that it's an electoral pact, right? It's to try and win an election. It's not about actually believing in things. I mean, I think the biggest gainers from that pact will be the Lib Dems, because they'll lose all those sort of the sort of centrist Tories will just lose their seats, which is what we began to see in the last election. So I don't see it working, and I see complete chaos if they try doing it.
Yeah, I agree. I think that actually what's interesting is in 2019, of course, Farage did step down all of those Brexit candidates.
Brexit party,
when Reform was the Brexit party, sit down those candidates in majority Conservative seats because he saw it as, we just want to get Brexit done, and if the Tories are going to do that, then we're going to support them. That's not, you're absolutely right, it's not the same as the parties merging, it's an electoral pact. I don't see that happening in the next few years, purely because we've got so much time between now and the election. So much could happen. I mean, it really is all for the taking. I also think Reform are now very serious about wanting to completely annihilate the Conservative Party. I mean, go onto their webpage, the first thing they say is, we are going to replace the Conservative Party, we're going to destroy them. And I don't think the Conservatives will do a pact with somebody that ultimately doesn't want them to exist.
Scarlett?
Yeah, I mean, and the Daily Express said, you know, it would be, was it the Mail saying that Farage and Boris Johnson, and you think, wow. I mean, you know, there's a Boris Johnson does not have the electoral appeal that he once did.
No,
I mean, a lot of people. He is over.
Especially post Partygate, he doesn't.
Oh yeah,
People loved him in 2019.
Maggie,
precisely.
I don't think they do
Precisely.
anymore.
Pete Johnson has gone.
Maggie has been in touch and said, being the cynic that I am, that headline about the Tories linking with reform is to try to put people off voting for reform. So hoping, and also on the Andrew Gwynne point, she says, so hoping pensioners die if you didn't vote Labour is having a sense of humour. Is Ream for real? That is disgraceful. Sean in Gloucester. Ream is an absolute legend, and I'm sorry, Scarlett always tries to defend the indefensible when it comes to Labour and their despicable behaviour. Lots of people not liking either of you today.
I think people always hate me.
Well, we're an equal opportunity station here.
Yes.
Barry says, disgraceful opinion from Reeve Abraham. Police officers can be sacked for offensive messages on WhatsApp. Why not politicians? Right then, I want to move to another topic, which is the question we're asking today, which is about Donald Trump, and saying that should British politicians be a bit more like Trump? Should they be a bit, perhaps, clearer, decisive, muscular? Reem?
Well, I do agree. I think that ultimately what Trump has been able to do is he's been quite hardline on policy, and I think this is a reaction basically because of the people that he has around him today. He comes across a lot more sensible on specific policy now than he did in 2016, and he's able to communicate that so fervently. I mean, the fact that he's able to say, this is what we're doing, this is my message, we are going to cut down the size of the state, we are going to cut down on immigration. Now, whatever your view is on all of those policies, he has been clear about it. And unfortunately, it feels as though in the UK at least, so many politicians feel incredibly vacuous. They don't believe in anything. There's such a lack of conviction. And whatever your view is on Trump, at least he believes in something.
That lack of conviction and the uni-party idea and the idea that politicians are all the same, that is something that has really taken root, I would say, in the last few months with our viewers and listeners, Scarlett. So how do British politicians try to have the integrity and the difference?
So, yes, we'll leave Trump to one side for a minute. So I absolutely agree that what British politicians, and in particular the government, has to be, is it has to be more on the front foot. More. And finally, last week, Rachel Reeves said, you know, we need to have more boosterism. And she's right. We need to say, this is a great country and we're going to make it great again. We're not going to make it great in the way that Trump is. I mean, we have to remember, Trump is talking about taking over Greenland. He's seriously talking about making Canada the 51st state.
But that's not going to happen. I mean, neither of those things are actually going to happen.
None of those things are going to happen. So
the stuff in Gaza. I mean, all of his stuff is nonsense.
The Gaza stuff is pie in the sky.
It's really scary stuff. But what we need to do is we need to say, I mean, Rachel Reeves needs to say, which she's begun to say, is, look, things are really bad, but we're turning the corner. We're going to make it better.
But she's not turning the corner. I mean, ultimately what she's done is increase national insurance contributions on employers, which makes it incredibly hard for employers to employ anybody, which means that wages will remain stagnant, people will remain feeling poorer. Ultimately, I think Rachel Reeves, as a Chancellor, and indeed the Labour government's entire strategy on the economy has been a complete and utter failure. And it's all well and good having politicians say they're going to talk down the economy, they're going to say things are really bad, but then also implementing things that are doing an antithesis to that.
Okay, let's Scarlett have her say.
We don't know. I mean, the thing about budgets...
Well, we do know. The growth has been revised downwards.
But we're getting more inward investment, right? We're doing better than Europe. I mean, what the Bank of England has said is the problem is there is incredible global insecurity. I mean, if Trump brings down these tariffs, right, if he starts doing tariffs on, even if he doesn't do it on Britain, which I think is very unlikely, if he's going to do it on Europe, if he's going to do tariffs, it is going to be a disaster for our economy. So actually, what we...
Sorry, just respond to the tariffs point. Sorry to interrupt, but if
you're a free trader,
I absolutely am anti-tariffs. Right, tariffs are terrible for American people. They'll be terrible for British people. That being said, just objectively, if Trump imposes tariffs on Europe and the rest of the world and doesn't impose them on the UK, it will basically force us to become wealthier. Not saying that's a good thing. Tariffs are always bad, but it won't be disastrous for us.
No, but the whole global economy is bad. That's our problem, and it's what we do. And you're right. We've got to say more. I mean, we've got to say more about what the government is doing and how they're going to make things better. And that is what is lacking. Actually.
Just very briefly, I want to ask Reem. May I ask the person in the tartan dress that is defending that Labour politician? Would she defend Nigel Farage if you had done the same? Reem McAbraham in your tartan dress.
I absolutely would. Reem McAbraham. I like that. I got this dress for Burns night actually, and I seemed to like it. Yeah, I would absolutely. Any politician that makes a couple of silly jokes on WhatsApp, I absolutely would defend them for basically being a human being. I mean, and by the way, I am maybe this view didn't know this, but I am sort of broadly speaking on the right, so it's a bit odd for me to be defending a Labour politician. Point is, this is not about party politics, it's about who the people are, and they are human beings.
Okay, thank you both very much. On the debate desk today, Reem Abraham, Communications Officer for the Institute of Economic Affairs, and Scarlett Maguire, former Labour advisor. Great to have them both.